What if Yoriichi wasn't born with the Demon Slayer mark? Have you ever wondered how the story of Demon Slayer would have unfolded if the finest Demon Slayer of all, Yoriichi Tsugikuni, was not born with the demon mark? No doubt it would have totally changed the storyline and even the characters within. But one of the first changes would be in Yoriichi's childhood. Yoriichi would have been raised differently. When Yoriichi and his brother Tsugikuni Michikatsu were born as twins, they were considered a bad omen at the time. Things got worse when their father saw that Yoriichi had a strange birthmark on his forehead and declared that he would kill Yoriichi. However, their mother Akeno Tsugikuni was outraged at his announcement, and an agreement was made that instead of being killed, Yoriichi would be sent to the temple and become a priest upon turning 10. Without the birthmark, Yoriichi would have been accepted as a child by his father and raised the same way as his twin brother Michikatsu. He would not have been confined to the 3 tatami rooms separate from the rest of the house and kept away from his brother. Often, Michikatsu pitied Yoriichi, who was thought to be deaf until he was 7. But if Yoriichi had been born without the mark, he would have most likely not have been an object of pity for Michikatsu. Yoriichi's abilities would have been compromised. Despite their father's belief that the mark was a sign of bad luck, it actually gifted Yoriichi extraordinary physical prowess. He would have never evolved into the miraculous prodigy beyond compare without his demon mark, because it wielded him his otherworldly potential, access to the transparent world, and selfless state, as well as a physique polished to the highest caliber and innate swordsmanship talent. As a 7-year-old child who had never picked up a sword before, he was even able to defeat a trained sword instructor effortlessly. Also, if Yoriichi didn't have the mark, he wouldn't have lived as long as he did. Anyone who awakened their marks had their lives shortened drastically, and they died before reaching 25 age. But Yoriichi was different. He defied fate and managed to live until around 85 years. We don't know why the mark didn't affect him as it did the others, but it's likely because he was the very first person to have it naturally from birth, while others had to train to obtain it. His extrasensory perception, bright red Nichiren sword, and the ability to see the transparent world all would have never been manifested within him without the mark, robbing him of the very legacy that we know of him now. Sun breathing would not have existed. A massive part of that legacy was his sun breathing technique, which might also have never existed. During a conversation with Michikatsu, Yoriichi had mentioned that before he took a stance, he breathed deeply, examining his bone alignment, muscle contraction, and blood flow, implying an early form of the sun-breathing style that Yoriichi would later adopt. This conversation caused Michikatsu to realize that for Yoriichi, the bodies of living things were transparent, causing him to pursue mastery of the blade with renewed intensity. Without it, he likely would have to spend time awakening the mark, or would have never had the confidence and the natural potential to even modify the breathing techniques and suit them to other Demon Slayer's strengths to help them hunt demons. With hard work, Yoriichi created variations of his sun breathing and formed the first water, wind, flame, stone, and thunder breathing techniques. The best of these demon slayers became known as the Hashira, and even though Yoriichi wasn't a Hashira himself, he enabled the coming legacy of Hashiras. All of this would have never been possible if he hadn't been born with the mark. Michikatsu would not have become a demon. Even Yoriichi's relationship with Michikatsu would also have been very different, because as Michikatsu continued training, he felt envious of his brother, who excelled because of his demon mark abilities despite being treated as a misfit and banished from society. 10 years later, Michikatsu became a samurai and married a woman who gave birth to 2 of his children. One night, a demon attacked his camp and left him the only survivor, but was quickly killed by Yoriichi, who came to his rescue. Seeing the object of his hatred again and twisted by jealousy, Michikatsu abandoned his family and became a demon slayer to train with Yoriichi. But he was unable to adopt his brother's sun breathing and ended up creating his very own moon breathing. The absence of envy could have prevented Michikatsu from becoming a demon and joining the Demon King Muzan Kibutsuji, because despite his accomplishment, Michikatsu grew frustrated from not being able to surpass his brother, and in the the end, Michikatsu was persuaded by Muzan Kibutsuji and became a demon, taking the name Kokoshibo. Muzan's fear and Yoriichi's legacy would have been quite different. However, Muzan, the deadliest demon of all, who had annihilated hundreds and thousands of demon slayers, had only one man that he feared the most, and that was Yoriichi himself. Yoriichi alone among the demon slayer corps was able to corner Muzan Kibutsuji and overpowered him in an instant. He was able to see into the transparent world and discern that Muzan had 7 hearts and 5 brains that changed position within his body. But just as he was about to finish him off, Muzan's body burst into many small pieces, and Yoriichi was only able to cut 1,500 of the 1,800 total bits of flesh, leading the remaining parts to revive and escape. Despite having avoided death, Muzan was deeply scarred by that encounter, referring to Yoriichi as the true monster between the two of them. If Yoriichi wasn't carrying the splendid birthmark, he would never have evolved to this level and become the only man Muzan feared. Without this fear, who knows how much more destruction Muzan could have unleashed that fateful night. Without the birthmark, even the sight of Yoriichi's Hanafuda earrings would not have made Muzan tremble in shock. Not just that, but Yoriichi would have never been feared by the other demons as well. Tanjiro would not have become a strong demon slayer. In fact, the absence of Yoriichi's birthmark would have had a significant impact far into the future as well, mostly on the life of Tanjiro Kamado. When Yoriichi was still a demon slayer, he saved the Kamado family from demons and remained a close friend of the family. After he had failed to defeat Muzan and watched his brother become a demon, he visited the Kamado family one last time. While he was there, Suyako, the mother, asked to see the forms of sun-breathing, and Sumiyoshi, the father, burned them into his memory as Yoriichi performed them. When Yoriichi handed over his Hanafuda earrings, the Kamado family knew they would never see him again, and they vowed to pass down the sun-breathing to their descendants in honor of their debt to him. The Hanafuda earrings were passed down to Tanjiro that he wears now, the very pair once worn by Yoriichi himself. This would have never happened if Yoriichi was not born with the mark, and the earrings would have had no value. While the Kamado family likely would have never passed down the forms of sun-breathing with their near-perfect accuracy, possibly leading to Tanjiro never being able to awaken his mark of a chosen sun-breather. Yoriichi and Tanjiro would not have been connected by the way of being chosen to wield sun-breathing, and Tanjiro's water-breathing would have never come a close second in comparison to the one created by Yoriichi, or maybe not even existed. The demon mark itself and the demon slayers would have never existed. However, the most significant and deadly result of Yoriichi's birth without the mark would have been the non-existence of demon slayers themselves. Since Yoriichi was the progenitor of the demon mark, and the mark held the ability to spread, it was Yoriichi that spread the mark to all other swordsmen in the organization, enabling them to awaken their own marks as well. Without it, humanity would have had little to no defense against the ghastly demons or any means to develop the level of slayers Yoriichi did that could effectively battle the monsters. The methods, variations, styles, and techniques that Yoriichi taught and spread due to his demon mark served the generation of slayers to come, and the absence of a strong figure like him would have made humans very unlikely to rise like they did. Humanity would have been plundered and murdered, and eventually the demons would have reigned, possibly subjecting humans to torture, or even turning them into demons to add to their armies while wiping out humanity. Without Yoriichi's gifted demon mark, it's safe to say we would never even have the gem itself called a demon slayer. So that'll be it from us. Make sure to comment down below your own opinion about this whole speculation. See you in the next one.